reality is, whether we like it or not, this thing is moving faster than any of us can possibly begin to fathom. And the next 5 to 6 years are going to even make the last 10 look silly and slow. And so, we are blessed that we have a consortium of breed association groups that are willing to do something that you all have to do on a daily basis, but breed association types typically don't do. One could ask, and Franklin could ask this with a fair amount of conviction, if you just look historically at the regular way that a breed association operates, you'd say, what exactly is it you do for this industry? However, when breed associations have the courage to start working together, we can start to help a whole wide swath of folks in a hurry. What IGS is this large collaboration of breed associations who have chosen to do what you do every single year, and that is go to your neighbor and put your hand across the fence and shake it, and you work together on a variety of things. About 1.5 years ago now, we started on a journey to try to provide a tool that can help you all, both at the commercial level, folks at the seed stock level, those feeders, and the folks at the packing level, speak a common language. Because if I'm a buyer, I don't know how many times I can hear that's a set of fancy black calves that's had all its shots before that really means absolutely nothing to me, right? And how many times if I'm a seller, I'm like this, please, okay? At some point, we'd like to be in a position where we can all kind of speak with some level of clarity. And so that's what we've tried to accomplish here with the feeder profit calculator. I'm going to show you some of the guts of the feeder profit calculator so that you can say you've seen those. But first I want to tell you a little bit about how we got there and what it's about. But the long and short of the feeder profit calculator is it is an awareness tool that helps you as the seller and the buyer speak a common language. And that common language is dollars and cents, or the profit potential of a terminal cow. And right now, that is something that for a long time has been lacking in our industry, and so we're trying this collaborative approach to see if we can all benefit just a little bit. So we know that we need knowledge. We both need it. But the problem is sometimes when we get all this knowledge, we don't know what to do with it. And so you say, why? Keep it in mind. So I want to go back to where Tom kind of started. There are a lot of pressures on us. And if you're not familiar with these pressures, they can sneak up on you. It's better to know. I don't know if anybody in this room has ever heard of Memphis Meats. Anybody heard of Memphis Meats? You better learn. Okay? And let me tell you why. Because for a long time there were a whole host of folks in this world who thought, you know what, they can put us out of business. They can make animal agriculture irrelevant. We can make vegan burgers, right? We have major firms selling those in parts of the world, major firms that you probably spend money with. We have firms that are investing in non-animal protein alternatives. But what they found is what you and I know. First of all, we need animal proteins. Our body functions very effectively on it. Just as much people actually like it. So what they found out is, how about we try to go around this fact that the folks in town still want to eat meat. Okay, so we'll quit trying to beat them into submission to being a vegan. We won't get rid of meat. We'll just get rid of animals. Memphis Meats, if you don't know, is a group that has major investors, major players. We're investing in a firm that's making meat in a lab. When you have those kind of people investing in something, those aren't schmucks. And when we have not only the folks like significant money folks, the Bill Gateses of the world, but then when we have the firms that we're selling to in certain cases investing in these. I'm not judging that, I'm just pointing out the reality. So we have to double down on our intensity to get serious about our profit potential, or we're going to be left out in the cold. Or we're having issues like this. Again, just to blow through some things that we have to deal with. In the last 40 some odd years, we've essentially doubled the amount of chicken that this country, per capita, we eat in this country. In the same period of time, we've essentially cut beef consumption in half. I don't tell you these things to be negative. I tell you these things because we need to know the landscape so we can make effective decisions to react to the landscape, because if we don't, we're stuck. And I would rather us be empowered and go do something about it than death by paper cut. Death by paper cut is no fun at all. So, takes us to our last little dramatic deal, those chickens. Why does this slide in here? I'll tell you why. Here's my contention. I think the feeder profit calculator makes genetic awareness real for a population of folks in our industry that heretofore haven't really been able to capitalize on it. To a large extent, maybe the savvy feeders in this room might be excluded, but for most feeders, genetic awareness is limited to hide color, ear length, and horn status. That's the proxy for genetic awareness of the calves, right? And you know who's to blame for that? To a large extent, let's own our piece of that. We haven't provided them very effective tools to do something different. So let's own what we can own and try to solve the problem. We can wait for others to solve it, but we probably won't be relevant by then. So let's talk about chicken for just 1 second. So if the profit calculator can make genetics real in our industry for folks downstream, what has genetics done for this industry? I steal this. This is from somebody else, but I just steal his slide and I steal his comments. Who used to run a little firm called Cobb Van Tress. Anybody familiar with who Cobb Van Tress is? They're the largest poultry genetic supplier. You should be, right? Largest poultry genetic supplier on the planet. Presently owned by a small little firm that you know is Tyson. Again, they're responsible for half of the chickens on the planet. Half. And so he goes through the statistics. His job was essentially to develop the better chicken and do it more profitably, quicker, and grow faster. You can't read these numbers, but let me tell you what it says before I get off this slide. It says that in today's world, 90,000 poultry buildings that do not exist because they're not needed, purely because of genetic selection. And you all understand the value of genetics. That's why you're at a place like this to appreciate what valuable genetics can do. So we all have data. We think we have data. We want it. But do we really? For me personally, I get a lot of data. I get a lot of numbers. But a lot of times it's just noise. And it confuses the heck out of me. So we need tools. Tools like, I like this one. And some of you have seen it before because it's important to me. Anybody know what that tool is? Gutenberg's printing press, 1400-ish. Changed the world. For that one, I like that tool because that's better for me. That's a little one I can actually fathom a little bit. So let's talk about this thing we call the IGS feeder profit calculator. Let me tell you the big picture things of what it does. What we're going to look at is it's going to highlight known genetics, predominantly through sires. It's also going to talk about management practices, and we'll get into those a little bit deeper. One big important difference, and there are one or two other tools in the marketplace that do a little bit of this. This thing becomes a deep dive on calf awareness as opposed to maybe some of the other tools that are in the marketplace. One of the areas that is distinctly different is this tool can look at the maternal side of the equation. I'm guessing almost every single one of you has put a lifetime into making your cows better. Right? It goes back to Mr. Wolf's point earlier. We focus in on a lot of maternal metrics, and we should. But we also put some grow and some carcass merit into those cattle. And the tool needs to be able to reflect what you've done, and it can. All this information comes from a database that's pretty impressive. The largest genetic evaluation on the planet is what drives this engine. There are 18 million head in this database. We use our own data to derive that. We also use USDA data in a couple of places where they can help us. That's just shameless marketing. We're the best science team in the business, but I challenge you if you want to pick a fight with me on that, otherwise we can keep going. Now, this is important. We don't charge anybody for this. And you might say, well, how do you stay in business? We'll figure that out, okay? What we have found is if, over the course of time, if we over-deliver and under-promise, trust me, the bottom line looks just fine. So we're okay. Why do we not charge a commercial producer? For one, we want you to want to adapt this sort of technology. If we start charging you, it's going to cost some to have a barrier. Two, we need those feeders in the room. We need them to see these sort of numbers on as many cattle as they can possibly get so that they can start to make selection decisions themselves when they're making buying decisions. And so we've intentionally made a decision that commercial producers who run a profit calculator certificate will never get charged. There is a cost, however. Recognize there is a cost. You're just not going to bear it. Serious seed stock folks who are investing in the future of this industry, that one, maybe that one over there, one in the back, a couple others in here, they have chosen to take that burden on because they feel like ultimately as you make more profit-focused decisions where you get more knowledge, it helps everybody. This is an example of this cow herd dynamic. So let's say if I wasn't able to reflect the value you put into your cow herd, I would just be looking at purely the sire side. And it would be better than nothing by a lot. But if I can reflect the changes you put into your cow herd, for example, and this one's just marbling, it allows me to move that just a little bit. Okay, ultimately what this thing does is, as a commercial producer, you put in some data. Then it cranks out a certificate, and that certificate's going to have a variety of things. You'll see one in a second. But it really boils down to 3 numbers that are relevant. One, at the top, is a relevant management value. And what that determines is it uses scientific peer-reviewed literature, and we use those scientists to help us determine a few things. And what it tells us through the scientific literature is that there are 2 very major management activities that drive mortality and morbidity rates of calves. If those calves are weaned for more than 30 days, their morbidity and mortality, their sickness and death, goes down a great deal. Cattle feeders, would that seem accurate? Okay? I think they would agree with that one. The other thing is, if we've doubly vaccinated those calves for BRD twice before they head off the farm, that too drives down morbidity and mortality quite a little bit. Would the cattle feeders question me on that one? Okay, so those are the 2 big events we think from a management standpoint that play into this equation. Secondly, relative genetic value. Okay, you all are here for serious reasons, and so you understand the value of genetics by the function that you're here. However, not only will this help identify those, and I'll show you how in a second, but hopefully through tools like this, for those of you who have been investing in this caliber of genetics, we can get to where we can start to get rewarded for it. So others can see your value in your genetics as well. Those 2 things together combine to be the total relative value, which is the most significant number on the certificate. How would you do this? Pretty easy. You go to a website called International Genetic Solutions. At the top, hit me one more time, Brady. At the top, up in the upper right, there's a little link that says Feeder Profit Calculator. Up at the top. Just click on it. It will take you from there. It's pretty simple. It's going to take you probably 15, 20 minutes. If you were putting in a major bull battery, it might take you a little bit longer. But it's not going to take you very long. Okay? It's not going to cost you anything. You're going to push submit, and it's just going to blow away. A day or 2 later, you're going to get back a certificate. So this is what that certificate looks like. You will get it back digitally. Why digital? Actually, digital is important because I want you to be able to share this quickly with some of those guys who've been buying your calves, some of those folks who've been bidding on them, your local feedlot guy who's not been bidding on them. I want you to be able to share this thing fairly conveniently. And so digital makes that just a little bit easier. I know you can't read all of this stuff on here because it's a ways away, but I wanted you to see it. But let me tell you what you got. Up on the upper left, that's blocked out in the orange, that would be your identification. Okay? That's you. The next section is all about your calves. Anywhere from where they're at to the genetic composition. This set of calves was 57% Angus and 42, almost 43% Simmental. It tells the birth dates, it tells the weight ranges, the colors, horn, poles, all those things. The bottom on the left is the treatment history. In this particular case, we've got 3 different vaccination events, a couple of deworming events, an implant. So, as a buyer, you buy with knowledge. So they can see everything that you've done, everything that you've shared with us. Because that may matter. Some buyers, maybe they're interested in an NHTC health program, right? And so they may not want an implanted calf. Maybe they don't care. They should know. The right-hand side is where the magic is. Towards the bottom are some stars. They're kind of give you a sense of where they rank relative to our population on quality grade, yield grade, carcass weight, average daily gain, and feed conversion. And again, all those things are wonderful, but at the end of the day, this is a dollars and cents driven tool. So let's talk about these pieces right here. Let me be very clear what these say. You see where it says total relative value. In this case, it says $7 a hundred. What does that mean? Very specifically, what it means is that the animal is $7 over, from a break-even standpoint, the average calf in the industry on that day. What is the average calf? We have defined, and you can read it in the small print if you can see it up close. We've defined the average calf as the average Angus genetic profile. And we've assumed that 60% of the calves are weaned for more than 30 days. 60% of the calves are doubly vaccinated for BRD. Would that be a little high? In some areas it might be a little high, some areas it might be a little low. But that's our assumption. That's the average calf. The average Angus genetics, 60% weaned, 60% vaccinated. So, what that says, if you're a buyer, whatever you were willing to break even at on that average calf on that day in that sale barn, for this particular set of calves, if you paid another $7 more, you'd still break even. Because they have that much added growth carcass built into them. Now, if you're the buyer, that's a great awareness tool. All we're really looking at, make sure what you understand we're doing. We're running a break-even calculation on that average set of Angus, and we're running a break-even calculation on this set of calves. We're saying there's a $7 differential between those two break-evens. Buyer has some awareness. Does the buyer have any interest in paying another $7 just to break even? In fact, no. Okay? So if you're the seller, don't think they're going to pay you $7. But we want this language to be as clear so everybody can see. There's a $7 differential. The buyer's not going to pay $7. Your hope as a seller is that he or she sees the value in this set of calves versus the unknown set of calves on the other side of the pen. Maybe they'll go another couple, $2, $3 with you. Does that make sense? The goal here is to speak a common language so that you and I can realize the answer's somewhere in the middle. Now we know. I'm going to show you real quick that this thing changes with weight. You all understand the same reason that heavier calves seem to be worth less per hundredweight, right? We know that, right? Keep hitting me for a second. I'm going to speed this up, but I want you to see what I'm looking at. You can't read these numbers, but this is 3 different profit calculator runs. And what it says is I've got a set of 500-pound steers here, they're vaccinated, all this, good genetics. And at 500 pounds, that break-even differential is nearly $15. That's a whale of a number. At 700 pounds, that's down to $10. At 900 pounds, still well above the average animal, about 7.5. Why is that? Well, the older and heavier a calf gets, the less risk the buyer has in terms of mortality and morbidity, right? The less risk we have when they go into a feed yard. So that impact of that good management, it decreases over time because there's less risk in a 9-weight calf than there is a 5. And the same deal with genetics. The window of time to take advantage of those genetics shrinks up just a little bit. So they don't get to have quite as much of that grab on that. So you can see just in this one example, there's about $7 plus